Hey guys, S-Max, back at it again with a brand new Horizons review. Oh boy, what we have gotten in these episodes. A perfect setup for a TimeSkip series, which is probably not going to be as long as the original, but still going to be really good. So, yeah, we're going to get right into the review. It's a little bit of a mix-up of how we're structuring these this time, a little bit of the same, a little bit of the difference, but yeah, we're just gonna have a little bit of a discussion, a little quick summary, and then just like discuss what I like, didn't like, and what we could potentially see in the future. But let's get right into that. So yeah, not really picking up right from last week. Instead, we are at a brand new beginning. We see a Slacking exploring a forest. This Slacking seemed to have more of a menacing aura to it than normal, it being an alpha Pokemon infested with Rockrude. And it's actually revealed that Dot, who the first character we see in this episode, recently has been getting tips about these like alpha-like Pokemon from her Needlefang viewers. So she asked Roy if he can actually investigate while he's on his journey. That's when we get a whole monologue about Roy, about what he's been doing. Since the end of Horizons, Roy has actually been training in Kalos, and we even see a Mega Ring on him that isn't really explained until a little bit later in the episode. But yeah, basically, in Kalos, he's been training to get stronger alongside Cap, Crocodile, Kilowattrel, and a Pokemon we'll mention later that we already all know what it is, and getting stronger and basically going on his own adventure, becoming the new Friede. Basically, Roy has been exploring the world, investigating interesting Pokemon, while also trying to reach out and find Rayquaza. And we actually see another trainer in a bit with a similar goal. But yeah, Roy finds the Slacking and watches it and sees the pink mist enveloping around this titan of this alpha Pokemon, when suddenly a loud, rambunctious boy comes running in, declaring that Roy won't get away from him. This is Ulti, Roy's rival, and we'll mention him more. But yeah, he has a Sableye, and also mentions that he's been following around Roy because Roy's his rival, not only in terms of battling, but his dream is also to capture the Black Rayquaza, which I'm curious how he even learned about it or why he wants but we will potentially get that in a future episode. Ulti accidentally sets off the Slacking, waking it up, causing it to attack them. Cap, Sableye, and Crocodile all team up to fight, but it's a little overpowering them. They're on equal standing, but when Crocodile rushes in with a flame charge, Slacking picks it up and gets ready to use a power-up punch, but it's saved by Kilowattrel. And it's nice to see these two finally getting along. That's when we see them use a team-up move against Slacking, but it does very little damage. Roy and Ulti decide that they want to finish this quicker, so Roy sends out a Shiny Lucario and Mega Evolves it, while Ulti Mega Evolves his Sableye. Cap and Lucario team up with Metal Claw and Thunder Punch, while Ulti sneaks in from the back with Sableye, getting a sneak attack from the back. But suddenly, it shoots off a Hyper Beam, and this is why I call it Alpha Pokemon, because that's like the main thing Alpha Pokemon do. They shoot off like Hyper Beams against you, but this is no ordinary Hyper Beam. It is a pink one that basically destroyed the whole forest around it. So this is when Roy and Ulti realize they need to lock in and take it out soon to protect the Pokemon. So Roy has Kilowattrel and Crocodile get a lot of the Pokemon to safety, while the boys lock in. We see Ulti using the gem in Sableye to tank hits, getting because of Sableye's immunity to normal type moves, which I'm so happy they pointed out, because the whole time I'm like, Sableye is like the perfect opponent against the Slacking, and they aren't really doing much. But I'm so happy Ulti mentions that they use Ulti's Sableye as a human shield, basically tanking all the attacks, while Lucario gets in a close combat, allowing for Cap to get a final Volt Tackle, taking down the Slacking. Roy sends the data he got to Dot, and they discuss that this definitely is Rockrude due to the purple energy being similar to Rockua, but they're both confused how it could be because Pagago had destroyed all the Rockua. That's when Dot's mom barges into her room to give her dinner, so Dot is forced to hang up with Roy. Roy then looks out to the sky and declares that he needs to go find Liko in order to put an end to inform her about the dangers, the new trouble. And that's when he also notices Ulti has been watching this whole time, where Ulti declares that since he's Roy's rival, he will follow him to the ends of the earth, not wanting Roy to get the upper hand on the search for the Black Rayquaza. So then Roy and Ulti have a little picnic and hang out when Roy decides to leave Ulti in the Den of Night, upsetting him, but Roy feels bad because what he needs to go do is a lot more important. We then cut to Liko. Liko gives a little narration that she has returned to the Indigo Academy. We see her in her battle studies class learning about type matchups. We then basically get her exploring the school, mentioning how a lot has changed over the years, and how her and Anne have become more top students with Anne in the academy, with it even being mentioned by these two girls that Anne has been scouted to join the Blueberry Academy's battle program. Which I gotta say, I don't really care if we see the Blueberry Academy or not, but that's actually a good way to tie it in. If it's not going to be any of the main three, good on Anne. I feel bad for Anne. Anne has her friend constantly leaving her on these adventures. So yeah, basically, after the little recap of what Liko's been doing, we get a nice little scene of her and Anne, where Liko actually does a little bit more monologuing, saying that Terrapagos hasn't left its Pokeball. And we get to see more of Anne and Liko's little friendship. And we see Anne even notice that Liko's more in an upset state, trying to basically repress her Rising Volt Tackler's memories. And we even learn later in the episode that she hasn't even told Anne fully what happened. And we see Liko basically reminiscing about the journey at that night while Anne feels bad. We then get a Nidothing video. It's good to see a Nidothing. Has been a while. Where it's basically Nidothing thanking everyone for the reports about the special Pokemon, and asking any more people if they can inform her about it so she can make a special video on it. And it's actually revealed that Liko has not been watching Nidothing for a while, and has basically fallen off as her self-proclaimed Nidothing. Then we get a little quick training scene between Liko's Floragato and Samurott, where Liko uses basically flower bombs and Anne is cutting them up. We then get a scene of Liko eating lunch with Anne, where these two girls are mentioning the Rising Volt Tacklers and how they're menaces to society when reading a news report about Spinel talking about Rockua. Anne feels bad and tries to get them to stop, but Liko just shrugs it off. And it's actually revealed here that Liko has been keeping her history with the Rising Volt Tacklers a secret to everyone but Anne. But Anne already knew that, so that's why they didn't really keep it a secret. And even we learn later, a little bit later on, that she even kept the end of their adventure a secret from Anne. But Liko then goes on the rooftop, a little upset about the bad name her and her friends have been getting, when suddenly Roy calls out to her in the same way Friede did and falls from the sky, which is a really good parallel. Now, this episode was actually a two-parter, so we're moving on to the next part. We get a little bit more of that scene from Roy's POV, where Roy's narrating saying that Rockua is dangerous and he must find Liko in order to reassemble the Rising Volt Tacklers. And we get a really funny scene where it's basically Roy being really vague about what he wants from Liko, and a lot of the girls who are surrounding them think he's trying to confess to her, and Liko also kind of thinks this, so she says, no, let's hold this off. And then Anne shows up, says hello to Roy, and it cuts to basically them giving Roy a tour of the school, where Roy inevitably tells them what's going on. He also gives some hindsight about what happened at Rockua to Anne after learning Liko never told Anne, where they tell her that after Friede went missing, they searched all over Rockua until Spinel and the Explorers Company locked it off to the public, forcing them to end their searches. So the group decided it was best for them all to go their separate ways, especially after being framed, with Liko deciding to return to the academy and Roy heading off to Kalos to train and get stronger. That's when these two girls, I hate these two girls. pull away Anne after hearing Roy's in the Rising Voltaclers, and also to try to basically protect her. But they use this as excuse to basically saying, oh, we want to hear more about battle skills. But yeah, Roy reveals to Liko what him and Ulti had seen with the pink Hyper Beam and the Alpha slacking, where Liko is confused about what this could possibly be, and it can't be Rukurum because Pagago destroyed all of it. Roy actually revealing the full reason why he came here, that him and Dot wanted to meet up with Liko in order to have Pagago test what the Ruku are, if this is actual a Rockrium. But Liko reveals to Roy that Terrapagos has been in a slumber. Anne comes back, seeing Liko all upset, and suggests that the two should have a battle. But we noticed Meowscarada is missing, so Liko basically avoids the situation and runs off to go look for her, while Roy and Anne decide to have a fun little battle. And we get a really cool scene where Roy shows off his shiny Lucario to everyone and battles the school's top student Anne and actually wins. This battle isn't really much, it's just showing off more of Lucario's strength, and along with Anne's strength. And I also really love Anne's 3-sword style Samurai. It really unleashed its inner Zoro. It used basically 2 of its shells and then its head to basically clash with Lucario. And we also see a group of students grabbing around thinking Roy's cool, until the 2 girls from earlier revealed to them that he's actually a member of the Rising Voltaclers. Liko finds Meowscarada and sees Roy's Pokemon, where, after a little talk with Meowscarada, Liko decides it's time to go fight Roy. Also, another really interesting thing about the battle, we see slight aura between Roy and Lucario. He is not beating the Ash Ketchum clone allegations with this aura. It was a really cool scene, but like, come on. He's not beating this allegation. But yeah, after Roy beats Anne, it's finally time for him and Liko's battle, where, I gotta say, although Liko ended up losing in the end, I really liked the battle. There's a lot of basically back and forth with each getting the upper hand. Roy obviously at first has the upper hand because of type advantage, but Liko uses her Flower Bomb techniques that she's been training, revealing that although she has been like upset and like stagnating her growth, which she mentioned earlier, which I did forget to say, the whole talk with Meowscarada, she mentions that she's been basically holding back from growing, while Roy, Anne, and Dot have all been progressing forward with their dreams and ambitions. But like, this is like a little bit of a contradiction, because we see that Liko brings up new techniques with the Flower Bombs that she hasn't used before, where she creates multiple, some being distractions, some being the real ones, and it's a really cool scene. And we see Roy definitely taking off, like, has grown way stronger, because he immediately comes up with a counter with this disarming voice to destroy all the real ones, but gets too distracted by all the distractions to notice the real one that actually appeared behind him. And I don't know if this was ever mentioned in the games, but apparently the whole Flower Bomb thing has a string attached to it. So basically Liko uses her old yo-yo techniques to grab Crocodile and basically send him in the air. And we learn from the students that this is Meowscarada's invisible vine technique. And as she goes to pull, basically, I don't know what she was going to do. I'd assume it was going to be blow him up with a Flower Bomb. Roy uses Flamethrower directly on Meowscarada to get himself free. With the battle intensifying, they both terastallizes. Liko uses Magical Leaf, while Roy rushes in with a Flame Charge, taking out Liko and winning the match. That's when Roy gets confronted by all the students about being a Rising Voltacler, and they start turning on him and Liko, where Liko actually proudly says she is a member of the Rising Voltaclers. We then cut to Liko ready to leave, and the two say their goodbyes to Anne, and head off towards a new adventure. Meanwhile, we cut to Spinel, who has all the hero Pokemon captured. Moving on to the next part of this, or moving on to the new segment, the pros and cons. I'm gonna say the cons first, and it's not a lot of cons. My only really con is stuff that we could potentially be getting in future episodes. Basically, what Roy has been doing. Roy didn't really go in depth. He just said, I've been training, and I've caught a new Pokemon, and I've been hunting Rayquaza. But like, we know nothing about how Roy met Ulti, besides that he knows Ulti's his rival. And Ulti explains that his dream is Black Rayquaza, but doesn't really mention it at all. And that's really my only con for the episode. I wish we got more of Roy's backstory. It would have been a really cool to see basically the whole first half of it was an hour-long special, with it being divided into technically 2 segments. The first one being Roy and Ulti versus the Slacking, and then the second half of that segment being Liko's new school life, with it ending with Roy showing up. It would have been cool to basically have a full episode to Roy, a full episode to Liko, but it also would have cut out some cool stuff that I liked in the second episode, so we can ignore it. But moving on to a lot of the pros, I just gotta say, Roy's whole character progression, I love it. I love that he's basically become Friede after looking up to Friede throughout the whole first half of Horizons. Although I hate that, like, a lot of his training got off-screen, especially with him mastering Mega Evolution and Aura. Like, yeah, that was a really weird thing that basically... Oh, I did forget to mention this when I initially recorded this. The whole Aura thing also kind of got on my nerves because, like, there was no hint to Roy having that kind of aura before, and all of a sudden he just pulls it out in his battle against Anne. Yeah, you're not beating the Ash Ketchum clone allegations. This is also why I wish he kind of got another Pokemon. It would imagine, like, it would have also been cool. It wouldn't have the same effect as a shiny Mega Lucario, but it would have been cool if they gave him like another Mega. Like, I feel like a Gallade could have fit this whole, like, the whole Roy thing, and a shiny Mega Gallade would have been cool, or a new Mega. I don't really know what the leaks are, but if you were gonna give a Roy like this style of Mega, I feel like the only ones that really could have fit besides Lucario were maybe an Absol, Scizor, or like I said, Gallade. But we got the Lucario. I hope we see more of it. It didn't really get to show it off its personality compared to all the other Pokemon, but yeah, aside from the aura thing I just mentioned, Roy, like, Roy's whole progression is like perfect. This is what I would want an adult Roy to be. He literally just grew up a little bit. He's matured a little bit. He's became like more of a refined leader, and we see that in his fight with Ulti, where he's basically being more of like the one taking charge compared to all of his like group battles in Horizons. He did take charge in his solo battles, but of course that is a solo battle where he more relied on other people helping him out with the strategies and stuff. Here, Roy is basically taking on the leadership role, and I love this progression of his character. Next up, I want to talk about Ulti. I like Ulti. He's really funny, and I like his little quirk of being like, "Oh, that's mega cool. That's mega lame." And I can't wait to see more of him. And I really, from what it seems like, he might be joining the Rising Bull, or Roy's new Rising Bull Tackler crew. I'd love that, to see basically them assemble their own crew, and it basically would show even more of Roy's progression of becoming a leader. Roy now has this like little kid looking up to him, seeing him as a rival though, but like Ulti seems to be younger looking up to Roy. But yeah, basically like Ulti and Roy's relationship. I'm not gonna mention Dot because there's not a lot to say. Next I'll mention Anne. Anne was perfect. I've always loved seeing Anne. I wish we got more of her and more like updates with her character, because it seems like most of the time we get an update with Anne, it's more to just push Liko, being like, "Hey Liko, your best friend Anne has gotten this development off screen. Why don't you get this development?" But yeah, I like the more like exploration of Anne's caring side towards Liko, her wanting to help out Liko and just being a friend to Liko. I can't believe people think this poor girl is a traitor. Not my Anne. Anne is my goat. And I really hope her dream comes true. She mentions in this episode her dream is to take on the Pokemon League. And hey, Anne, I think you could beat that bum Lance. That's just me. And that would be a really cool thing to see. Like at the end where each kid like goes off on their own. It would be cool to see if Anne becomes like a champion, where potentially in another series, that'd be like a cool, fun little cameo. Yes, Horizons hasn't really cameoed or referenced the original series, but I feel like it would be really cool if from now on, like we don't need to see Liko, Roy, Dot after the series, but it would be like really cool if like we could just like see like a character like Anne, and she's like doesn't really mention Liko or Roy a lot, but like it's just like mentioned. Oh yeah, Anne's the new champion. That'd be really cool. But speaking of Liko, let's talk about her. Her whole like basically pseudo holding herself back, scared about the future thing. I really like that for her. It's kind of a regression, kind of not. It makes sense that like Liko seems to have been the, like one of the out of the kids, the one most impacted by the loss of Friede and like the whole event at Rockua, and she's traumatized by it. Especially because it also like kind of caused her partner, Pokemon Terrapagos, to go into an eternal slumber. And Liko's always been the more emotional one of the group, so it makes sense that she's like basically old. Like she has guilt and like trying to repress her feelings with sadness. And I love that Roy is the one who basically makes her smile. Although she was condemned with her life, after her adventures, that's not really what Liko set out for. She set out to explore the world alongside her friends, the Rising Attackers, and Roy was able to push that back out. And I just loved it. But yeah, besides that, the pros, another pro I have is basically the setup. I really like the setup this like whole episode have for the series. It puts every character, like I said, in a really good position. It also really set up the plot in an interesting way with these alpha Pokemon infested with what's left of the Rocky Room, causing terror in the wild. With now Liko, Roy, Ulti, and Dot being the ones who have to stop them and potentially find out the mysteries of how they appear. But yeah, that's all I really gotta say about this episode. Really good. A great start to basically a new era of Horizons, and I can't wait to see where this goes in the future. But yeah, I'll give this episode a 10 out of 10. I gotta say, it was really good. Well, like each individually would probably be a 9, but since this is like a two-parter, the whole two-parter gets a 10 out of 10. For the following reviews, I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna try to have every review. This one's obviously already late, but like for the following reviews, I want to have them like uploaded Friday or Saturday with this whole new structure I introduced where I do the recap and then pros and cons with an extra video per week basically discussing if there's like enough substance to the episode. I really want to discuss some theories. Like I already have like a lot of theories like put together. I've also like in the past had like whole theory videos that I want to discuss. For example, one big thing I really had, like, this was like early Horizons, like around like episode like 22, 23, I came up with this like idea that like Roy's parents or Roy's mother was Gita. That's why, or we're gonna potentially see Roy become a champion. But I never really uploaded it because like, because like I didn't really do a lot of theory videos back then. But I want to like push more theory videos and more like speculation. And if you guys have any like ideas of what you could potentially be seeing in future Horizons, you can basically leave your comment about your thoughts, and I can discuss it if you guys would like. But yeah, I hope you guys did like this video and do subscribe for more content like this in the future. I'm S-Man, signing off.